So I guess I'm just going to talk for a while. He has there's so many topics I want to share, but I don't know. I feel like they're messy right now. So I'm just going to talk and see what comes out. Shortly after I made my last video, about an hour afterwards, the one about the dogs, my dog became severely ill from an allergic reaction to the food that God had me purchase, which is just beyond frustrating because I am at the point where my biggest expense is my animals. And I bought a 50-pound bag of food so I could not have to worry for several months. And, well, turns out he's allergic to lamb. That was the day before my birthday. And God has previously told me that if he ruins your holidays, there's special rewards. And in the past 2 years, except for one Thanksgiving, pretty much every holiday has been markedly awful. So the day after he got sick, I went out to my car to buy him some Pepto-Bismol, and my tire was flat. I fixed that because I had a pump, and then I noticed there were a lot of wasps around my car. Well, I opened my door, and right there, right in the door, is a wasp nest. Apparently, there's 3 wasp nests in my car, and I'm like, oh, great. This is going to be a fabulous birthday. Well, he'd been telling me all week that we had an appointment to get an air conditioner installed on August 1st, my birthday. And he said, well, at least you're getting air conditioning. So I had not slept. I guess the dog thing happened, I don't know if it was the night before or 2 nights before. But anyway, I hadn't slept more than 4 hours and 2 nights because my dog had to go outside every hour and a half. And then I lost my train of thought. I don't like complaining. I just feel like, well, I want everybody to know that God works in seasons. And the air conditioner. So I was supposed to get air conditioning for my birthday, and I was woken up early to take care of the dogs. They went berserk. And then my mom got a phone call that the repairman had COVID. So that started off my birthday morning nice. And then that day went down there. It's been an awful week. Today hasn't been bad, so I'm hoping... Oh, I got a horrible burn. I can't even... Awful. And this is kind of how he works. So, today things have calmed down, and he got lots of battle out of me. Let me think. So I have a lot of viewers that might not have watched my earlier videos, and in my earlier videos I really laid out a lot more about kind of the bigger picture of God, like why we're here. We're essentially here to suffer and battle. And also what's going to happen next. So I know some of you know this, but for those, it's hard to keep it in your mind. Mainly, a lot of it's because we've been trained since a young age that people die and then they immediately go to heaven or hell. That's just simply not accurate at all. Judgment Day has not happened and will not happen for about another 1,005 years. No one is in hell, and the only person in heaven is Enoch. Elijah's in the gap, which is just below heaven. Those are the only human souls that aren't asleep that have ever lived besides Jesus. So everyone that's lived and died is asleep right now. And when Jesus returns in about 5-ish years, everybody's going to wake up except for the wicked. The wicked are going to remain asleep. And, to them, it'll just feel like one night's sleep. They'll wake up and the 1,000 years will be over and they won't even know what happened. But in about 5-ish years, when the end comes, Jesus is going to, I don't know how it's going to work, but he's going to come in the sky and we're going to be pulled up along with the righteous who are deserving of going to the kingdom. And we'll get new bodies. First, everyone will have a conversation with God and Jesus, if Jesus was their shepherd. And then we'll be led to or placed down in our communities and our mansions. So not everyone's getting a mansion, but everyone who was a righteous child of God who ends up in Jerusalem will be given the equivalent of a mansion. Jesus has been preparing these essentially since the day we're born. Like, if even as a child, if we have something that is very meaningful to us, he's going to like build us our own home so that we know God appreciated us and that he was with us our whole life. And Jesus knows everybody's tastes and whatnot. So we'll end up in Jerusalem. Probably the ones watching this right now. Oh, there was a dog growling. It sounded like, oh! In addition to the wasps and the burn and the air conditioner, my mom's dog got attacked by another dog while I was walking her, like a pit bull, bulldog kind of thing. It's just out of nowhere. And see, a couple weeks ago, another dog had came running up like it was going to attack her, and God's like, oh, I control animals. I'll take care of it. But this time, like, walking my mom's dog through this town that I grew up in and walked these streets when I was a little girl has been like really an important part of my day. And now that she didn't get like severely injured, but she's terrified now. I'm terrified. It's like, he didn't give me a break. So yeah, now I have a newfound fear of dogs. And anyway, what was I talking about? What's going to happen to us? So, this is all biblical. It's all in the Bible. It's just God has pretty much prodded human beings to not know all this, even though it's in the Bible. Why would he do that? He has a lot of reasons, but the main reason is he pretty much didn't want us to be too involved with him, meaning he needed to judge us naturally in our authentic, genuine, free-willed self. So our brain can't conceive of how involved he is in our life because he didn't want us to know. He didn't want us to know how closely he wrote the story and how righteousness is important, possibly, well, not more important than salvation, but that in addition to seeking salvation, which is given to us through grace, we are also in a quest for righteousness. And righteousness is what allows us to enter the sphere of God. God is like a giant planet of pure light, and he to get close to him, you have to be like a diamond, like crystal clear. And his light has to shine through you. If it doesn't shine through you, it's going to burn you up. So by suffering down here, he's said he's making diamonds of us all. Through suffering down here and loving and whatnot, we're getting hardened so that we can be pulled closer to him. Because right now, Jesus and the Holy Spirit are the only beings righteous enough to come totally into his sphere. And at some point in time, it's not that God doesn't want everybody to come into his sphere. There will come a time when he just knows for an absolute fact that certain souls will never reach the righteousness level to be able to come near him. And they also destroy everything for the righteous. So they will be sent to the outer darkness where God is not present. And that's a truly horrible place to be. Like, we can't even conceive of it. So I'd like to do more about the kingdom. It's really exciting. He just said the word the Jetsons. There's all this technology I was about to say that mankind has developed is actually inaccurate. God has developed the technology and allowed us to think that we've developed it. But essentially what he's been creating is a technology level where mankind doesn't have to suffer anymore, doesn't have to do like the really hard work that people used to have to do. And life has gotten easier and easier and easier. And now the technological advances are such that Jesus has created a kingdom where it's just going to be like phenomenally just inconceivable, even to us. But think of the people that lived, 2,000 years ago, or even 300 or 100 years ago. They're going to be just thinking they've entered just make-believe, science fiction. So, yeah, I want to make a video on the kingdom. I don't know. It's just like hard for my brain to even comprehend that, like, Jesus just thinks about and designs what he wants, and it'll be there. It's insane. God the Father's in charge of like the nature. There's going to be fruit trees that are, in season, and you can just walk around and there'll be fruits and strange animals and just like this wonderland of God's majestic creational powers. So if you want to know more, go back to my older videos, and I give quite a bit more detail on some of this stuff, but I know some of you haven't even seen them. So that's what we're working towards, the kingdom of Jesus Christ. It's called the 1,000-year millennial kingdom. What else has he been talking about? There was something he had me write down today. Maybe I'll talk about that. Oh, this is a good one. Someone asked me, and this is not the first time, about near-death experiences, which are also called NDEs. And these are when people go to heaven or hell, and they come back to testify about it, essentially. That's the main reason he gives these to people. But if you watch a lot of them, you will see that they are wildly, wildly, wildly different. And all my life, I would never even listen to that stuff because my brain told me that they were either mentally ill or they were attention seekers. Sure, some of them I saw, especially the people that die and then come back and they write a book, all that. But if you watch videos and research, you will see there are thousands of these near-death experiences, and some of them are just way out there. Some of them are truly frightening. So someone asked me today, why would God give a near-death experience or a trip to heaven or hell where someone would see children in hell or hear that someone's in hell because they hadn't repented for a sin? And God, He's been telling me a lot about these near-death experiences, but today He said that, see, the whole universe is run by all these rules. And if you really sit and think about it, if you create something from scratch, it has to have rules and structure. So God has rules, and there's different teams. And to keep this balance of good and evil that never goes too far in one direction, He gives privileges or rights to other teams. And so apparently, every year, I don't know how He measures it, but throughout history, God Himself has had a certain number of these NDEs that He gives, and then the enemy also has the ability to have a certain number of these. And the enemy can be Ha-Satan, or it can be Satan. If Satan is giving the NDE, however, Elohim, El, the author, the Most High God, that's what Elohim means. It's all the same God. There's only one God. But Elohim has to agree that it's also within the rules. So when you're watching NDEs and something's just not adding up, you can pretty much guess that either Ha-Satan or Satan has been responsible for strategically giving whatever particular near-death experience someone is going to have. So the enemy is an enemy of grace, and the enemy is a fear-mongerer. So when you see an NDE that is, there's children in hell, or there's people that didn't repent in hell, or there's people who committed suicide in hell, these are from the enemy. If you're not hearing grace, now if it's a hell one, that's different. Even though, however, even God Himself will use deceits for the hell near-death experiences, because Satan thinks he's going to be like the ruler of hell, or he did. He's been informed otherwise at this point in time over the past year. But all this time, Satan thought that the NDEs that Yahweh was giving out were accurate. So, like he's saying right now, there's no way he could even allow a living human to experience hell. Jesus is the only one, and that is why Jesus is he conquered death, because he survived. I don't like to talk about this because it's just too close to home. Like, he did some horrible things and had me get a serious, serious taste of hell. But he was kind of holding me up the whole time. I can't even imagine without him having held me up and pulled me in and out when it would get too much, that it was even survivable. Being without God is it's inconceivably awful. Everything good on earth is from God, and everything bad, like truly bad, is from the darkness, and that's all the darkness is. So I don't know what my point is. I'm not trying to scare anyone watching this, because if you're watching this and you love God, you are not going to hell. I know I say this a lot, but this fear, especially in the righteous, of hell, especially if you've been watching a lot of NDEs or even sermons from the enemy. God is grace, God is love, God is compassion. That does not mean that he looks compassionate, because I have seen very little compassion over the past 2 years, but I know it's temporary, and I know that who I met in heaven is like the Father. No one can even conceive of being this awesome. But what he has to do down here is just a whole another nightmare. Ugh. Right above where I wrote, "Why are NDEs so wildly different?" he had me look at something I wrote last week, which was a thing to make a video about, but it was the sadness of God. God is very, very complex, and we tend to think of him up there kind of either hands off or judgmental, or I don't know. Each person has their own kind of view of him. But every time I would go to heaven, before I could enter, I had this overwhelming sense of the sadness of God. And Jesus is very sad. God himself, at this point in time, is very sad. He's sad because he had to put us through this, and there's so many of us down here he loves, and he knows what we're enduring, and it breaks his heart that he can't make it easier sometimes. Sometimes he does. He does hold us up. But he's sad because he can't bring everyone with him. He's sad because so many people down here are ungrateful for what they do have. He has people living in urban areas and horrific places on earth that are grateful for everything they have. And then he has all these people in first world, affluent countries who are miserable, who never call on him, who never thank him, who don't even believe he exists. Like, being God's not easy. Man, let's see. Man, I had so many things to talk about, and now my mind's just blank. I'm making her mind blank because I want to say something. thing. Oh, Lord. After the week that I've had, and the fact that I now know that this is going to last longer than 2 years, because now we're at 2 years and 7 days. Like, sometimes my hopelessness is just, it's overwhelming. And sometimes I say, what else are you going to take from me? I have lost my career. I have lost most of my family. I have lost my life savings. I have lost my friends. I have lost all my belongings. I have lost my son. And so what he does is, well, every once in a while he'll give me hope. Hope that he's going to restore my life, or he's going to at least make me useful. I know that I am useful to those of you who watch my channel, but very few people are watching. And some people are watching who aren't nice. So he'll give me a little bit of hope, and then a few days later, just smash it down. Just, I can't even explain it. But he often says, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. He says this a lot. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And one day he had me pretty much realize that that is kind of what life is. You're given life, but then you have to die. He takes that away. If things go naturally, you live longer than your parents, so he takes your parents away. Most of us lose friends. We lose our physical health. We lose our appearance. Material possessions wear out. Pets die. That is kind of what life is God giving and then taking away. If you can come to peace with that, and you can if you work at it, and someday when I'm in a better state, I can help you reach a better frame of mind, because it's possible. I've done it, and we're going to need to do it to get through the coming 5-ish years. So I hope he allows me to educate people on how they can see the world differently, kind of unattach from the world and our desire to have and then lose. Because that's what causes us the most pain in life. It's all the loss we have to face. But I was never able to sum it up as the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. That's what the Lord does. We will lose everything that's important to us except for him and his son and his spirit. Well, that's not true, because you get your families back. Oh, well, actually, he's going to give us everything back. We're going to get our pets back. If we loved our career, and it's possible to have it in the kingdom, he'll allow us to work in our chosen field. Sometimes we've lived 40, 50 years and we realize we didn't get to live our dreams, so we lost our dreams, but he's going to give us our dreams. Must be in battle. He just said, the Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away, and the Lord then returneth in multiples of 7 by 7 by 7 when it's time. So if you have the faith that what has been given and taken away will be returned multifold, it's easier to get through. It's easier to get through death when you know, well, in 5-ish years we'll be reunited. They're just sleeping. They'll wake up and be who they were, only better, happier, more peaceful, more loving. So, I don't know. I guess these are just thoughts on God. There's so many topics that are so like complex or pretty much misinterpretable. Like there's lots of topics that he's told me about and I don't have a problem with them, and most of you wouldn't have a problem with them, but a lot of people only hear what they want to hear, so I don't want to cover them until I feel like, I guess, people know for a fact that I'm talking to God. God's always saying he's going to turn the earth upside down and upon its head. See, he's got a lot of surprises in store. I'll just touch on this a little bit. First of all, I want to say there are no absolutes with God except that God is absolutely good. But everything else I say, don't form judgments based on them, because you could be wildly wrong. When he's talking about, I guess you'd say patterns or spectrums, there's no absolute in a perfect spectrum. That means at either end, even at either end, there's going to be exceptions. God is a God of exceptions. So whatever I say, don't try and pin it down into some absolute. That's absurd and unwise. But God said in the Bible that the poor shall inherit the earth. And he also said it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven or reach paradise or whatever. And we read those things, but we as a group have not absorbed what that would actually mean. It literally means the poor are God's children. And the poor in each society are literally God's soldiers and warriors, because I can tell you now, poverty is awful. I cannot even express and I have an education. But I have been forced into a poverty that was previously inconceivable to me. And it is awful. It is terrifying. And I taught in a school of, I've taught in a couple schools of poverty. And what these children go through, they are God's warriors. And so many people look at these people as problems. Well, if they didn't exist, life would be great. The United States would be wonderful. I'm talking about the African Americans, the natives, the Mexicans, the poor. These are God's children. And God uses them as essentially a measuring system that if you have been, not you, because I doubt most people watching my videos have spent a lot of time being racist. But when people look down at the poor with self-righteous indignation, He records that. We are involved in this matrix of highly complex algorithms that judge every word we say and every action we take. And He has baselines and He has handicaps and He has this whole system so that we are judged fairly. And these poor that so many people look down on, and it's not just in American society, it's in every society on earth. Every society on earth has their poor, and they are all God's children. Sometimes He says, what a joke I've played on mankind. They think the rich are loved by God. Little did they know, even though it's all over the Bible. And woe, woe, woe to the pastor who has lined his pockets on God's name and not helped the poor. That's one reason. That's one reason He allowed Paul to say women shouldn't be pastors, because he did not want them to face the wrath that so many pastors are going to face. Well, that turned intense. I was talking to a viewer today, and he said he loved her, and she said, my heart is overwhelmed. And he had me right. His heart was overwhelmed as well. And he said, you would be shocked to know how few humans truly, truly love me. Me being God. That was God talking to my face. I hope there aren't many humans that love me. Oh. Sorry. Yeah. I didn't want anyone to get confused on who was talking. Some verse in the Bible says that if you love God, God loves you. And we tend to think of God as being impervious to, I guess, petty emotions like offense that someone doesn't think about Him or care about Him or appreciate what He's given them, but it hurts Him. It's offensive. And then when there's souls that love Him, even if they mess up all the time, I don't care. As long as someone loves Him and seeks Him, He is right there. He's right there with gratitude in His heart. I went on one of my trips to heaven I ended up in this area, and I didn't know what I was seeing. I just knew there were billions of beings in this, like, it looked like a, I don't know, kind of like a desert someplace out in Utah. And there was just billions of beings. There's no like horizon line in heaven, so you can see huge spaces. And there were all these beings, and all of a sudden the energy got real tense. And I guess I looked up and I saw this little shoe. It looked like a leather moccasin, kind of, in my mind. This leather shoe started walking through the area, and God is so big you can't see all of him. And it wasn't literally him, it was his presence. But he started walking through the area, and all of these beings slammed themselves down on the ground. And I looked up and I was like, oh, I want to bow down to this thing too. And as he got closer and closer and closer, I started filling up with more and more joy, and yet there was this righteous fear and awe over what I was feeling. But I looked around me and I realized all these other beings, they were just feeling fear and terror. Like they were trying to make sure that he didn't notice them. And I was like, I came back from that trip and I was like, I didn't know what I'd seen. I just understood that I had a new respect for God. But apparently, the heavens, as I've said many times on this channel, are not prepared. The whole universe and the outer universe is involved in this purification of ridding the world of darkness. So there's lots of suffering going on up in heaven as well. And God is not to be trifled with. Like, I haven't even been able to relay what he's done to me because I have so much trauma over it. But sometimes I just sit here and I just say, oh my God. If he could do that to me, who he claims to love. No, guys, he's not to be trifled with at all. At all. Just try and love him, because he's totally forgiving of those who love him. But you wouldn't believe how many people don't, because they don't want to be good. They want to be bad. If someone asked me what the most terrifying thing in the universe is, I would say God. And if they asked me what the most glorious, wonderful, amazing thing in the universe is, I would say God. Now I have anxiety and I want to quit this video. Man, I guess he didn't want me to cover anything else. There's been a bunch of small things lately that I'd like to gather more evidence for. I have one viewer. I've spent several days answering his email, but he has so much knowledge, and he has I learned so much from many of you, honestly. Like, everyone brings their own knowledge and their own wisdom and their own experiences, and God often has you share them with me, because that's one way he gets us to learn. What we're supposed to learn is through other people. And anyway, some of the stuff that this person has discovered matches what I've said in my videos with biblical evidence that Jewish scholars know. And that's so exciting, because this journey has been so weird, with God telling me all these wild stories and whatnot. And at first, I didn't have much biblical evidence. I did, when this first started, he had me pick up the Bible and just start reading it. And I was like, I am a really good reader because I'm an English teacher. And I've read thousands of books in my life. But as I was reading it, just for the first time in decades, I'd never sat down and read the Bible. As I was reading it, I was like, what did I learn in church? Like, there's stuff going on here we didn't talk about. And then I realized, yeah, church isn't always the best place to learn what the Bible actually says. So, what's my point? I read the Bible and realized that, I realized that a lot of church doctrine is just wildly wrong. And then, now that I know a lot of these secrets and keys and mysteries, now I'm finding everything in the Bible, but finding this email that was sent to me that, I told you about God gave different strengths and knowledge to each denomination. Well, he definitely allowed the Jews insights into certain things that the Gentiles were somewhat led to overlook. No one made a mistake and no one's bad. I'm not saying anything's wrong. God doesn't make mistakes. There's no mistakes on this earth. There are wrong things, but they're not wrong in the sight of what God's plans were. So, that's exciting, and I can make better videos and whatnot. Well, if I had some technology, if I had a computer, if I had a lot of things. I have nothing. Like, literally, I have this phone and some clothing and some stuff that I like to craft with, but I can't even concentrate long enough for that. So anyway, hopefully in the future, I'll be able to be a better teacher. One would think I'd be better considering that was my career and my passion, my love. I know how to teach and I know what a lesson should look like, and none of these look anything like a good lesson. Who knows what's ahead? At one point, well, I don't know what he has planned. He used to tell me all these things he had planned, and now it's pretty much just, he keeps my brain in the moment. He doesn't let me think of the past because I'd go into a state of grief that's would literally hospitalize me. I have lost everything that has ever been important to me. So he doesn't let me think about that, thankfully. And now that I know that life isn't what I thought it was, it's really just a big battle for the Lord. It's a big testing ground. We're down here for a purpose, and then we go back home. Now I can't even dream about the future because A, he's not going to let me just live my life ever again. But B, what's the point of all the things that I used to think were important? I mean, teaching was important, but not because I was teaching them materials. It was because when they'd come into my classroom, they'd leave feeling the love of God and acceptance and passion and light. That's like the powerful things of this world, things that leave people feeling good. But anyway, I don't know what he has planned, but God, please, 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 please let it come soon. I'm so tired. I'm sorry, I didn't want to make negative videos. It's just so hard. But once again, I want to tell you all how much some of you mean to me. There's no words. Out of everything I've lost, God has given me some people that just thrill my soul. And He's taken a couple of them away. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, and then pours out blessings when you get home. Amen.